Okay, I'm going to go over briefly, in the most briefest of ways, um, the difference between DNA, genes, and chromosomes. Okay, so here we have a beautiful molecule of DNA, right? DNA, as I'm sure you all know, is the genetic material that one organism passes to its offspring, right? It's bambinos, it's babies, right? So this little bambino here was my son 16 years ago. And it's one of my favorite pictures because he looks like a little bobblehead doll. So, oh yeah. Anyway, so that's what DNA's job is to do, to pass. Well, it's not its only job, but that's where our genetic material is. It's on our DNA. Okay. So, where is our DNA? Well, I'm sure you all know, but I'm just going to recap briefly. Your DNA is a molecule. Everything in your body is made up of molecules, okay? Your DNA is a molecule, that beautiful double helix, right? That twisted ladder, and it lives in this organelle right here, which is dun, da, 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 the nucleus. That's where your DNA is. Now, okay, cool, Miss Pastorelli, I've learned that forever. Big deals. Well, your DNA, I want you to think about it. Your DNA is this very long molecule. In fact, if you took your DNA out of one nucleus, just one molecule of DNA, took it out of the nucleus, that's not a word, out of the nucleus, and you stretched it out, just not pulling, just made it long, it would be about the length of a car. Okay? So that molecule, with all your genetic information, is not curled, is twisted into that double helix and compacted into the nucleus of a cell that we can't even see with our eyeballs. We need microscopes to see it. So that's amazing. Okay? So what's our DNA do? What's its job? I mean, what's on it? We know it's a molecule, it sits there in the nucleus. Okay. But what's on your DNA? And that, if you look at all of these red dots that I'm going to put on this DNA molecule, those are your genes. Your genes are segments, sequences that make up your DNA. And those genes, they will code for proteins that your body will then go and make. And these proteins will be made into various traits that make you you. You know, it mean there are proteins that make your eye color. There are proteins that make whether your hair is curly or your hair is straight. Straight. Um, Whether you have lobes that hang freely or they're attached, whether you can curl your tongue. Whether you have, your DNA will tell you whether you have certain enzymes, and then it will use sequences to code for the protein which builds those enzymes. So your DNA has genes that live on it that code for proteins, and those proteins then go on to build your traits. All right? Now, every gene has two variations. We call these variations alleles. Now, why would we have two? All organisms that are created by sexual reproduction have two variations of a gene. Where did we get two? We got one from mom and we got one from dad. called genes. Those genes come in two variations that are called alleles, and those genes will then go on and code for proteins. And we have two alleles because we got one from mom and one from dad. All right. So when DNA gets ready to replicate, remember, it's this really long molecule with lots of incredibly important information. So the way that your cell has evolved to make sure the fewest mistakes are made is it coils that DNA into a chromosome. And I'm going to show you what those chromosomes look like in this beautiful karyotype. So this is a karyotype of a human being. And it's normal, which means you see the normal pairing, the normal amount of pairs of chromosomes. Now, all these 22 chromosomes that I've circled, those are called autosomes. They are all of the non-sex chromosomes, which means that XY down there, you got it, those are the sex chromosomes. Now, we have two sexes, male and female. Do you know if XY is male or XY is female? Dun, 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 dun. If you're XY, if you have XY chromosomes, you're a male. If you have XX chromosomes, you are a female. Okay? Little fun fact. Learned that when I was in college. Okay, so this person right here is a male because they have an XY chromosome. Now, notice how many total pairs we have. We have 22 autosomes and then a pair of chromosomes. So that means we have a total of 23 pairs of chromosomes. And again, we have pairs because we got one set of chromosomes from our, that's right, and we got one set of chromosomes from our daddy-os. See, that's the way it works with sexually reproducing organisms, okay? Another interesting, so how many individual chromosomes do all humans have? We have 23 times 2 sets, which is 46 chromosomes. Chromosomes, homies. So every sexually reproducing organism will have their number of chromosomes. It's 46 for humans. It's less for fruit flies. It can be more for plants. So every organism has their set number of chromosomes. Now, because this is a chromosome is a coiled segment of DNA, they kind of look like X's, so it's why we always kind of depict chromosomes as X's when we're writing them down, because they do look very much like X's. But you can see genes on these chromosomes. What do you think where do you think the genes are on the chromosomes? You can see them. So what do you think they are? Let me erase all this gobbledygooks. You can see the genes. On that chromosome, where do you think the genes are? And I hope you said all those little bands of black and gray, because you're exactly right. Those are the genes on the chromosome, because the chromosome is just a coiled chunk package of DNA. And since we know genes sit on the DNA, then chromosomes also hold the genes. So DNA is the molecule in which all of the information your body needs is located, all that genetic information. When we need to replicate it, you go through the cell cycle, your DNA will coil into a dense package called a chromosome. And your genes sit on are segments of DNA that will code for proteins that will go on to build all of our traits. So that's basically the down and dirty of it. All right. Let me know if you need help.